Welcome. This is our Afterthoughts segment. I'm Alan Hinsey. This is Mainebiz Sunday, and this is where we keep our guests over from our television program, and we keep them on for an exclusive segment that we show just on the web. So here with us are Pam Hurley-Mosier, Yellow Light Breen, Cynthia Dill, and Taryn Bragnon. We had a good kind of lively session before on a number of topics. We kept them here, and we're going to cover a couple more issues. I want to talk about one, consolidating healthcare. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? There's a lot of that activity going on right now. I didn't know this, but Maine leads the nation in the trend towards consolidation of healthcare delivery systems, said Andrew Coburn from the University of Southern Maine's Muskie School of Public Service. Today, 23 of the 39 hospitals in Maine are either members or affiliates of the three major healthcare groups. That's Maine Health, Eastern Maine Healthcare Systems, and Central Maine Healthcare. And there are two others who have parent organizations outside of the state. So I'll just throw this open to anybody to talk about it. Is this a trend that we're going to see? Is this a good idea? Consolidation and efficiency makes sense, but do rural communities get left out in the cold? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay, Pam?
I mean, I think there are pros and cons to both, but I feel that in the state of Maine, with 1.3 million people, while it may not make sense for New York City, I do think it makes sense for the state of Maine to consolidate health care. I believe for some of these hospitals in some of these rural areas that are failing, it gives them access to capital, better technology, and it really does create, I feel, better health care in smaller communities.
Okay.
And I'm all for it.
Okay.
And I also feel that you have to take a look also at the reputation and the record of those organizations in consolidation, and I think they have a great track record.
All right.
Well, certainly from, I think, a government perspective, when so much of citizen taxpayer money goes towards paying for health care in these hospitals by way of Medicaid and Medicare, that of course, we want to create efficiencies wherever we can. And so not only would I think it increase the quality of the care, because I think some of these outfits have more sophisticated equipment, it would just create efficiencies that hopefully would mean less money going into health care, which is a huge drain.
Isn't anybody afraid of
Monopoly.
Too big? Too big? Is anybody getting too big? Maine Health, the Federal Trade Commission, and things like that, looking at these issues with Goodall Hospital recently. I don't know. Weigh in on that.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just amazing to me that in all the other 5/6 of the economy, we recognize the importance of choice and competition in improving quality and lowering prices. But when we turn towards healthcare, there seems to be this gut instinct to say we need fewer players and a more central authority and more heavy government regulation. I don't think any of us would be saying it's a good thing if all of a sudden Aetna left the insurance market and we were left with just Anthem. We wouldn't say, oh, suddenly it's gotten so much better with less choice and competition. Exactly.
No, but if Aetna had campuses all over the place doing duplicative services, I mean, there's no reason to have competing MRIs across the street in Lewiston.
I know we were talking about some of that earlier, too, about that.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, with the oldest population in America and with the incredibly high degree of Mainers on Medicaid and Medicare, with government slashing reimbursement rates on many of those programs, the pressure to consolidate and realize efficiencies is tremendous. And the government isn't making them do this. I mean, the hospitals themselves are saying we can't invest millions in automated medical records. We can't deal with the duplication of services. We can't deal with the purchasing power of buying stuff together unless we come together. So the government isn't making them do it, I think, importantly. I do think the issue is always efficiency has to stop. Like in a business like ours, we want to be efficient, but efficiency has to stop when customer service gets impacted. In healthcare, I think it's the same principle. Efficiency, but efficiency has to stop when patient care gets impacted. I don't think consolidation is having a huge impact on patient care for good or ill. We've got huge other issues on access and patient care. We have 20% of our primary care physician capacity in Maine that's unfilled. We can't attract the providers in the rural parts of the state. That actually has nothing to do, I think, with the consolidation of hospitals.
In fact, some would argue that improves your recruitment possibilities by consolidating and being associated with a larger healthcare system. It's a fatter market that they can attract physicians to. Okay, let's move on to another one. Let's talk about the governor's race. You know, this is an election year. Have you heard?
No.
Does anyone want to declare does anybody want to declare today that they're running?
You're the only 5 people not running.
I think so. I think so. All right, we got a lot running, and then I want to talk about the running the businesses the state. Some candidates for governor this year, such as Les Otten, Rosa Scarcelli, Matt Jacobson, to name just a few, tout their experience as a private business sector and private business owners, saying that the private sector experience is necessary to lead Maine to fiscal health. So my question to you is, how important is that? Is having someone who's leading our CEO of the state, so to speak, having a business background, is that important versus other backgrounds? I don't know.
I think it's crucial.
Okay, tell me about it.
I think if we want to run our government like a business, we need a savvy, experienced business person.
Do we want to run our government like a business? Can we run our government like a business?
I think so. I think we should, and I think that you get a business person in there, somebody who really understands the reality of making payroll and creating jobs and eliminating jobs and mitigating risk and being decisive, quickly, efficiently, even being unpopular. The tough decisions that business owners make, I'm adamant about that.
All right, well, let's ask this side, because we have one current legislator and one former legislator. What do you guys think?
I think it's important to have that private sector experience so you're grounded in the real world of the challenges of being an entrepreneur and a job creator in Maine. But on the other hand, it's so important for people to understand that government is not a business. Right. The dynamics are very different. Unlike yourself, you can't, the governor just can't say it and make it happen. There's a whole checks and balance. And sometimes what happens is people who come in with just business experience don't appreciate what a different world they're walking into, and it can be a disaster. So you need to understand the political forces as well.
Yeah, Cynthia?
Well, I agree with Taryn that governing is not the same as running a business. I mean, when you're in government, you have the obligation to uphold the Constitution, you have to have a balanced budget, and you have to protect the safety net. And when you're in business, I think usually you're generated by a profit motive. And so I think business experience is incredibly important for anybody in leadership, but I do think political experience is helpful because you can't just dictate. You have to lead and get people to vote.
Right.
And so I'd like to see a combination of both. I don't see it as one or the other. I'd like to see somebody who has private experience in the business world, but also has the relationships to lead in government.
And I think that may be more the case in Maine than other states in many cases. We have that kind of combination. We don't have professional politicians per se.
Nobody
in
can
Maine.
afford it.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And I think Taryn and Cynthia are right, because I say to people in our company all the time, imagine trying to run a private sector company if you had 186 members of your board of directors.
Right.
It is just a different creature, and I think
you
you
only
have
need 51% though.
right.
That should be changed.
Every day,
you-
51%.
Yeah, there we go.
It's not created for efficiency. It's created for consensus building, and that's an arduous process and a frustrating process. But I think you've got to have amazing political instincts, regardless of whether you cultivated them through serving in public office or just from being around those issues in other roles. And you do have to have amazing management skills, again, wherever you acquired them, whether it was running a complex public agency or running a private sector business. If you can marry those two, I think someone who only has one, who is in for a disappointment. And I would even say someone who only has legislative policy making experience is not necessarily well equipped to run a 10,000 plus person business operation with a $5 billion budget.
Yeah, and it sounds like maybe it's a good idea to have kind of a lot of different those layers too. If you have someone who has that multiple skill set, but you got some really good. I mean, I love with Angus King. I mean, we both actually worked for Angus King at the time. So knowing, when Chuck Hewitt was there, it was so great having Angus coming in, and you had this business manager. I mean, just really was running the shop. It was clear that there was a real business focus on that piece, but didn't do everything. There was policy that had just what you're talking about. It had that larger kind of consensus piece. So
Well, I mean, to
there
put
are
it
a lot of
differently,
companies that run their businesses consensus
Well,
based.
you're a perfect example of that.
And it works. So
Yeah.
I don't think we should pigeonhole and say, a business. I think the right business person.
Right.
Because quite frankly, I don't see it really working. I don't see government working as good as I think it could. I think it could, and maybe it shouldn't be a dictatorship, but at the same time, I think more of a consensorship could work.
And I just want to finish up here, but I remember in the panel you were on before when we were talking, I was so impressed when you were talking, Pam, about how you run your business. You have these metrics that you look at every day. And keep them simple. There are 4 or 5 that you watch that you know when you're on track and when you're not, and which knobs to tweak. Now that's something that I think that a governor should be able to have, even if But then they got to realize that the politics gets
and
involved.
if you're a natural born leader, you can sway people.
Yeah, well,
but I think out of diverse experience comes vision, maturity, and wisdom.
Right.
And if you can acquire significant public and private
Right. No,
experience,
and I do agree with
then
that.
it
I
gives
just
you
think
that.
if you've been in Washington for too long, you do become a little bit jaded.
True, but Augusta?
Or in politics.
Well, look at,
right, yeah,
right, exactly.
I do.
All right, well, we got 23 people running. Surely one of them's going to be the right mix. Okay, thank you. We're going to stop it there. I appreciate you all being here. This has been great. Thank you all. That's the end of the Afterthoughts. Thanks.